My bad. Um, so this is a movie I saw. But damn, what was it called? It was called Flight Plan. So I'm gonna share my screen real quick. So I saw this movie recently called Flight Plan with Jodie Foster. I really liked this movie. This was good. Um, I won't spoil it, but a quick synopsis of the movie: basically, this lady is on this flight with her daughter. She ends up losing her daughter on the plane somehow, right? You're probably thinking, like, how could you lose somebody on a plane? There's only so many places you can be. Well, she lost her daughter, and she's trying to convince the plane crew to help her find her daughter on this plane. And they basically said they have no record of her ever entering a plane. But we see shots of her on the plane, get on. So it's this weird kind of psychological thriller drama. Um, and it takes a pretty interesting turn. So this is a movie I saw recently that was pretty good. The story was pretty good. The acting, the cinematography was probably my favorite part about it. Um, they had some really good shots, really good color grading, just really thrilling and suspenseful. They did a really good job with the visuals of this movie. I really liked it. And since we're talking about color today, um, just notice this blue and yellow tint because we'll talk about why a lot of movies have this blue and gold or blue and yellow or blue and orange tint to their posters. You actually see that a lot. But yeah, that's a movie I saw recently. It came out in 2005. Yeah, 2005. Who produced it? Touchstone Pictures. Okay, Touchstone Pictures. It was distributed by Warner Brothers. So, I mean Disney Pictures. But yeah, this is something I would recommend. Um, have you seen any movies recently, Gabrielle, that caught your eye, or TV shows or music videos? Okay, so we'll just move on then with that. But
Wait,
what else? Huh?
McNasty. McNasty.
Here, type it in the chat so I can find it.
Hmm.
You said make nasty.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. You could type it in the chat. Okay, let's see. Is this the right video? I mean, channel.
Turn your camera so I can see.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Turn your camera so I can see.
Can you see my screen now?
No, I can't.
You can't.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Do you see what I'm seeing? Like this YouTube channel, McNasty. Is this what you were showing me?
Yeah, just Just never mind. Yeah, I think you're on the right one, right?
Yeah, it's like the guy with a paper bag over his head.
What? Paper bag?
Is it a song or a movie or you? What exactly is the video?
Big Nasty by Jay Park.
J Park.
Yeah, Jay Park.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll play this.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop sharing it and reshare.
Okay.
I'm looking for freak McNasty.
1 second. But yeah, that was my interpretation of the video. But other than that, though, I like the shots. I like the editing. Really good. Good lighting. I like the effects that they use. Uh, yeah, really good visual effects. Like I had the gummy bear dancing. Had like a big chicken thing falling over. I think that was cool. The dancers were a good touch. Like I said, the lighting was good. Uh, yeah, like these food effects, like the slow motion and having a burger flip like that. Those are all cool shots. But yeah, like I said, Korean videos always are interesting because it's always something different and unique and weird. So, but yeah, this was a cool video. So Keenan, basically what we'll do today is try to get green screen going. Show you how to do that and like the different stuff you can do with it. And then the rest of the time we have left, we'll talk about color grading and like color and film and like how certain movies have a certain color scheme and what that means and what they do. And just talking about that. But yeah, we'll see how much we get through today. But I definitely want to set the camera up and try out the green screen and get that going. But but yeah, any videos or movies or shows catch your eye recently? All right. Um, all right. So yeah. So Gabriel, I know you're not here, but we got the camera facing the green screen. You can kind of see it. Uh, so you could just kind of follow along, and then I'll screen share when we actually uh, edit it out, so you can see the process. But that's basically what we'll do. Um, Trying to see if I want to start with color grading or start with green screen. Hmm. Yeah, let's start with green screen. All right. So before we start that green screen, got the camera set up. Um, I just want to talk a little. We talked a little bit about it before, but I want to just recap green screen process. So, so green screen, right? So we all probably heard of it before and probably have seen one, but many of many people probably not may not have experimented with the green screen, or they may think it's a lot of work. I don't know how to do it. It's actually not. You really only need two things. You need a green screen and you need the software. Well, I would say three things. You need the green screen, the software, and then an idea of what you want. So, in a lot of movies, green screen is obviously popular, right? So, I want to ask you guys though, like first you, Gabrielle, what do you think green screens are used for? Like, what do you know about green screens?
Special effects.
Okay, used for special effects. Okay, yep. How about you, Keena? Any thoughts on what you think about green screen? Like, why do you think they're used? Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's used to create effects. And another thing about green screen is that it saves time and it saves money, right? So it saves time by, let's say you want to shoot a car explosion scene, but you may not have the time to go shoot that, or you may not have the resource. So you just set up a green screen in the studio and recreate it. So there you save time. You don't have to go out in the street and worry about people getting in the shot. You can just create a green screen in the studio and do it like that. But most importantly, it saves money, right? So if you want to do a car scene that blows up, you got to spend a lot of money to blow up a car. You also have to spend a lot of money to get the space to blow up a car, and the street and blocking that off. Well, you don't have to do that. You can just set up a studio, set up a green screen, have a good special effects guy or girl, and they can create that for you. So, for example, in the movie The Matrix, they used it for this scene, right? This wasn't an actual like room. They green screened it, but it looked realistic, but it would probably save time, save money. They were able to get more creative with it. So um, they decided to create a green screen out of it. Uh, Same in Jurassic Park or Jurassic World in this case, right? You could create a green screen and create a new set, right? You could have actors and green screen props and costumes and change that up and recreate that. And the Karate Kid movie, uh, they have this green screen, and then they have a person in a green suit. And why they have that is because if you have anything in green, you can take it out and replace it with whatever you want to. So, for example, if you have a person dressed in green, you can take that person and delete him or her. You can add something there. You can do whatever you want to. So sometimes, if you ever watch behind the scenes sets of green screens, there's sometimes people dressed in a green suit, and that's to eventually take them out and replace it with something else, or just make it disappear altogether. So in this case, they took him out to give the Karate Kid that stance to make him be able to do that kick, because I guess he couldn't do the kick on his own. They had somebody hold him up, but they didn't want to show that, so they made him dressed in green and took that out. Uh, and Spider-Man, right? All those spider web scenes where he's flying across the sky in New York, those buildings, green screen. Well, in this case, it's not actual green; it's blue, but it's the same idea. They use a blue screen. I think we talked about this before, just for sake of, let's say they have another thing in there that they need to be green. They don't want that to interfere with the green from the background, so they have a different color. But you can really do any color. You can do red, you can do orange, you can do purple, whatever color. Green is just the standard, I guess, because that's how it's always been. But you can really do any color. You'll sometimes see blue. That's popular. Green and blue are the most popular. Yeah, so Life of Pi, they had it. Alice in Wonderland, Spider-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's a neat tool you can use to create new worlds, fictional worlds, take stuff out, and do whatever you want. They also do it on the news station, right? When you see the weather lady or weatherman, that's a green screen behind them. So if they ever wear green, it'll come out something like this because it'll take out anything that's green in the shot. So if you're wearing green, it'll take that out. So that's what I always tell people who do the weather, never wear green because it's going to make that green disappear. So like in this case, she was probably wearing a green dress and it reflected off of that. Or this lady here was probably wearing like a green belt or something and it took that away. So you got to be real careful when you wear green because it will take it away, like this lady. So that's the only thing. Green screen, you can't wear other things that's that same color if you want it to stay in the shot. So another thing about green screen, if you ever go to a production set and behind the scenes and see a green screen studio, there's a couple things to keep in mind. So this is the perfect setup for a green screen. I say that because for a few reasons. The first reason is the lighting is well, right? So you'll see why when we edit it out, why lighting is so important, because you want these to all be the same shade of green, because you get a dark green, you can get a light green, you can get an olive green, an army green. It's so many different shades of green, but you want your green screen to be one shade because it makes it easier to take out when you edit it. Because you have two different shades of green, like a dark green and a light green, the computer is not going to know which green is the right green you want to take out. So it's important to have everything the same color, or at least as close of the same shade of green as possible. So that way the computer can just take it all out. It doesn't have to use different types. You don't have to use the effect over and over again. You could just take one color out and it'll do it. So lighting is extremely important. So you see how well lit this is. If we're looking at it through a computer, we can see the different shades, right? It's darker down here, lighter here, dark here. So it's different darknesses and lightness. But when you're actually there on the set and they're just filming this part, it's pretty standard. It's a pretty standard green. So that's the first important part of green screen, is having good lighting so it shows that solid green color, or any color really. Whatever color the screen is. Like I said, it could be blue, whatever, it just needs to be lighted well so it'll get all one flush color. The second most important thing is it doesn't have any creases, right? No like creases or lines or thing is ironed out. So you can actually iron a green screen and make it flat. But if you see mine up there, it's got creases, it's kind of bent. That's not how it should be. It should be ironed out. So, because when you take that green out, those lines will show when you edit. But of course, we can get that out. But you want to save as much time and do as less work as possible, so you don't have to worry about editing that and giving your editor a headache. So lighting important, creases and lines also important. Third, another important thing is space. So having enough green screen space to work around. So for mine up there, I got this one space. So we only can utilize that rectangle right there. But in production studios, they have a whole stage that's green. So if they have a whole stage, people can jump around, flip. Is more space. So you want to have as much space as possible to so you can manipulate the scene or environment to whatever you want to. So 1 second. What else about green screen? Yeah. So bigger production sets. Okay. So another thing I want to mention about green screen. So like we talked about before, sometimes you have people dressed in suits that are green, and I wanted to just touch on that. And show that if you have objects that are green, you can use that to manipulate the shot. So here in Alice in Wonderland, some of the characters are like in this green fat suit. Well, later on, they turn into these like characters once they go through the editing process. So you can see the before and after of what a green screen does if somebody's wearing one. They can go from these guys in these fat suits to these little animated, monster kind of things. But it's just so cool, and the power you can do with it. If you have a good special effects team, they're able to create some very cool stuff. King Kong. So I want to show this tab. It says 10 movies you didn't know you used the green screen, and 12 movies you definitely did. So this first one, Avengers, of course, Civil War. They use green screen a lot in the Marvel movies. But this fight scene in particular, some people may have thought this or outside of an airport, but like that would be a lot of money to rent that out. So instead, they shot in front of a green screen to make it look like they were shooting at like an airplane like garage, but that wasn't. Matrix, of course, we know that was filmed. The Joker on the set of Suicide Squad, that was green screen. Some scenes in San Andreas with The Rock were shot in green screen. Mostly all the Avengers use green screen. Yep, Civil War, Winter Soldier, a lot of commercials. So like the Tom Brady commercial, King Kong. Obviously, it wasn't a real gorilla in the movie King Kong. They used a dummy. Herbie, the car movie. Matilda. Yeah. So what else? The Disaster Artist, Superman Returns, Transformers, Harry Potter, Constantine, Movie Pulse. All these movies. Sin City, Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Space Jam. So if you ever seen Space Jam, like the Looney Tunes characters, those are real people dressed in a green screen. They just replaced them with Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. Um, and yeah, so that's how they did the Space Jam movies, because it'd be hard for Michael Jordan to do all those moves with nobody there. So they had to have somebody kind of passing the ball to make it look like it was a real person, even though it wasn't. Um, so yeah, so I'm just show this video and then we'll jump into it. We'll see how to get into it and use it. So I showed that one. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to show. Dang, hold on, green screen. Here it is. All right, so this is one of my favorite videos, actually. All right, so just a quick thing about this video. So at the top, they show what it was like, what the green screen before the effects were taken out, and then at the bottom, they show you what came after they did the rendering and effects. So I'll just play this. So she's in this room right here. This is the before and after. You can see it in real time what it comes out to.
We have push me that line. I haven't seen that line on the field. 27, 28.
2 chocolate burgers and 1 regular. Thanks.
Big puppy moving into position now. What a sight. Think how he measured anything. It's only was the word of the old guard. Arms they would have sheet on. Don't think any of those. Arms they get up with land crabs. Car ready to deliver each other. Highway to now, maybe they go.
Thank you.
That's what the old guard were made for, so let's see how it's playing out.
Yeah. So real quick, just want to point out 2 things and why I really like this video. First off, notice how I said lighting is really important. And this bottom one, you see that red light kind of shining on her. They actually had a red light shining on her when they were actually filming it in front of the green screen. So that lighting came into play. Same with the guy who delivered like those goods in the truck. They had him well lit and had that part well lit here. So you can see how well the lighting is set up to make it give that effect. So right here, she's lit up in the face. They have it again here lit up in the face. So they translated it really well. And this is one of my favorites because I love it. You can actually see the process of, not the process, but you can see the before and after of it. Now, the person who edited this obviously was really good and had a lot of experience, and they have a lot of, they probably had a team do this. So this is more advanced green screen editing, but we can still use green screen and do some cool stuff with it. But I just want to point out that this is more advanced. This is something they use at production companies. You know, they have a whole visual effects team doing this. So just showing you the possibilities of stuff you can do, and yeah, we could do stuff like that. So let's go ahead and just work with the green screen and film. Let's see some different parts of it and see what we can do. So I'm gonna stop sharing this. And then, all right. So you want to be in it, or do you want to record me? Record me. Come right here. So as long as my So again, anytime you ever use green screen, you want to make sure you have a tripod so it stay in one place. So this is how you record it. It's that red button. Just press it once. Just make sure I'm in the shot. So if it's cutting off my head, all I need really is from here to like here or here to there, as long as my head is shown. So if I'm cut off, you might have to back up and tell me to on that. So I'm just do whatever. Sound like I'm walking or something. And then push out the flex in the background. Stop it. Yeah, I can't. I think we can use that. So I think we can use that. So, all right. So I took my SD card out, which is what I use to what you put in the camera to record. So now I got this little SD card reader. I can plug it in my computer. I see the file. So let's see what came out. All right. All right. Pretty good. And I don't know if you can see it, but the lights are kind of like flickering. Like it's just like lines. And that's because these lights are fluorescent. And so they all lights flicker. They're just real fast. So you can't see it with the human eye, but the camera can. It picks that up because depending on the shutter speed. So to avoid that, in the future, I have to make it brighter, and I have to do that. I have to slow down my shutter speed so it doesn't catch that flicker. It's too fast right now, so it's able to catch it. But if I slow it down, it won't catch it as fast. So that's why that happens. But normally, if I use your iPhone or something, it'll come out good. But the camera is just so sensitive to the light, it picks that up. But we can take that out. But in terms of just the actual video, this is good. We'll crop this part out because all we want is green. So we don't need any of this. And we want to just make sure we keep it steady. So like no motion from the cameraman. I can have motion, but no motion from the camera. But okay. So we can work with this for now. So if you could open up CapCut. I'm gonna open it up as well. And it's literally 3 steps. Like it's not even. It's a process. So do you have Gmail? Yeah, your own. Because I'm gonna share this the clip that we just recorded with you, so you can just download it and use it for the example, just so you have it. Because no, log in how you normally log in, but then once you're logged in, check your Gmail. Actually, you don't got to do that. I'm gonna use my drive and just go to your computer and put it in there. But as long as you have CapCut open, that's all we need right now. So you got to download CapCut. Yeah, just let me know when it's downloaded. It takes like 5 minutes to download, so just let me know when that's up. First thing, not last thing. Just let me know when you got that up.
Oh, pretty good. Oh, we need to be.
And that noise you hear, that's the smoke detector. The battery's low, so we're gonna change that out. So that's what that noise is.
You say some features maybe not work with like that.
See if this works. No, it was the same. Yeah, it's reinstall it because it's something. So same thing from the start. But I still have to keep getting through. So it's
Hi, I'm Erin.
oh,
Good. How are you?
well.
Yeah. Aramis? Hi, Erin. Nice to meet you as well. Hi. Dancing.
It was just having to download it. So I needed to ask for the fish. So now let me give you. So you can start a new project. Let me give you this file real quick. All right, so let me just show you this. It's real quick, honestly. So, Gabrielle, I'm about to share my screen so you can see it as well. You want to follow along? But all right, so you got yours in. Let me just put mine in. Uh, all right, so we got our green screen footage. First thing we want to do, see it, drag it to our timeline. So just click and drag it. So we have our video, so we can scrub through it, see what it looked like. Cool. So a couple things we already know about this video. We want to just have the screen be green. We don't want the clock and none of this in here. So to do that, we got to scale in my clip. We got to zoom in with it. So if you click the video on the side, you see this thing called scale. Just use the drag until it fills up the entire screen. You could double click it as well. We want to show my head. We don't want to cut me off. So, you said what? What number am I at? Oh, it could be. I'm on 139, but you can do whatever you want as long as that gray is off that clock, and it's just showing my head. So as long as the screen is full and it's showing my whole head for most of it. Got it. Cool. All right. So this is how I start off. Cool. So first things first. Well, now we got that scaled in. It's just showing green around. All we have to do is click remove BG, which is remove background. Click that. Scroll down until you see chroma key and click that check. So now it should be green. I mean, it should be blue. It should be checked. So if you click remove background, the top, and then scroll down to chroma key. You got it? Yeah, so you see that check mark. You got it? All right, now click that eyedropper. You might have to click it twice. And then hover over the green. And then press enter. And it should take it out. Yeah. Or just press like after you click it twice, you should just be able to press like anything else and it should exit. So let me do it again. You got it? So it took it out. So you see this black? All right. So now let's play through it. Now all that green should be out of there. You play it through, it should just be a black screen behind me. Now that's how we knew we took out the green. And that's literally it. We just took out the green. But I don't know if you see around me, it's still green. It's like green around my whole head, and you can still see a little bit of green. We don't want that. That's sloppy. So we want to take some of that out. To do that, just play with these settings, right? You have 4 settings: intensity, shadow, feather edge, cleanup edge. So just play with these until that green is gone. So I'm doing this about here. I don't want to do it too much. It's going to take me away. Just enough. Okay, just try to shadow. Okay, take that. Then let's try to feather edge. Boom, and then clean up edge. And I should be good.
How do I move it? Like, how do I move it?
Move what? Are you trying to move like I'm moving through it? You got this line. Make sure let's see. Yeah, you should have this. You don't have this line right here, and then just click it and drag it. Those okay. All right. Okay. So it should look something like this one. I don't have any more green around my skin. After you play with these settings, if you want to look at my settings, this is how I got it. I got 51, 35, 31, 64. So if you just want to type those in, you can, but I recommend just playing around with it and seeing what looks good. All right. So now, another thing I would change real quick. I'm kind of bright in this, mainly because that's how we recorded it. So I'm gonna go up to adjustments, the top right, and then scroll down, and then just bring this down a bit. Just clean it up. I just want to clean it up. And we'll get more into this when we do color, but just something where I'm not as bright. Again, I went to adjustment, the top right, scroll down, so you see these like color things, and then just find lightness. So just play with the exposure, the contrast, highlight. You don't have to, but I'm just doing it because I felt like I was kind of bright. So I'm just doing that to just make the skin look more realistic. All right. So once we have that, we just took out the green. So we've finished 50% of it already by just doing that. Now, back in the day, it was so many steps you had to do to get that green out, but now it's just 2 buttons and that's it. So now let's replace the background with something now that we got the green out. So I'm running, right? So what would be a good background to put behind me running? We could do that. We could try to do that. The only reason I don't know if it will work all the way if my legs aren't in there, and we could reshoot and do it how we want to. You said words? We could do birds, yeah. But yeah, another thing I was gonna say, what I should have said was at the beginning, think about the story we want to tell. So we would have said dogs. Yes, I should have put my whole body in it. But let's find birds. Let's try birds. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going back to Google, and then we could do this at the end together. Yeah, let me see if I want you to try this because I'm trying to think if we want to do a video or a picture behind me. Let's do a picture first. So you actually let's go back to CapCut. So I'm gonna have some stock you should have a stock footage folder with just like sample video you can use. So let's try see if we see birds or something. All right. So in yours, you should have something called library or stock material or stock footage, something like that. Under spaces and above brand assets, you should have some. Or you can type search something you want to. So we were saying birds, I guess. So I'm just search birds, and then here's a bunch of examples. But let's try to see what would be most realistic for me. So maybe this little cities, maybe this right here, and we could do this again and try something different. But I'm gonna use this one, but you can use whatever you want. So once you have it that you want, again, click and drag it to the video. So now you just see your video at the top and then the green screen footage at the bottom. You got that? Okay. So now we want to do, we can't see it because it has to be flipped. So we got to actually put the green screen at the top and put the birds at the bottom. And you should see it in the background. All right. And so that's essentially how you do it. And I don't know if you see, but like on mine, it's kind of like glitching a little bit on the hat. And that's because the intensity is too high. So I'm gonna bring down the intensity a bit. And then we got the so if you're doing an interview with somebody or a documentary, you can basically do it that way. So you don't just shoot in front of like a background. You can have them in front of a screen or something else. So I'm gonna do another video. This time I'm gonna try to do what you said, that small version. I'm gonna try to like put that to somebody's hand, something like that. But this is good for like interviews. I want to try another one, but this time show my full body. I'm like in somebody's hand. I'm gonna redo it. Make my slow. You want to record again, or do you want me to end this? So basically, let's think about it. You want to let's try one where like you're in somebody's hand. So basically, I would need your whole. Who's somebody? Like it's like somebody picking you up or something. I'm gonna try like that. So. Like that a little bit. Back up as far as you can. All right. So, all right. So I'm about to record. Yep. Okay. So the only thing about so the thing is with this is it's not a longer green screen. It only shows what's in the green screen. So if you raise your hand, it's gonna cut that off. And same with your shoes, since it's no green under you. So we're gonna try to do the best we can with this one. But try to not do stuff like this. Do more like out. So and then you can scoot over a bit. But all right. So let's try that again. But this time stay within the right and the left. All right, so action, you can do whatever you want. You could spin around or yeah. All right. We try one. We do one more. Back up a little bit. Hold on. All right, action. All right. Let's- Ideally, we will want a bigger green screen where it covers the whole wall, so we can really just try it, but we don't have that much space. And let me check out how this one came out for you real quick. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna. No. All right. All right. So we got the clip of you. So I'm gonna stop it here because then your arms start to go out. Okay, so what did I say we want to do? Okay, so let's try. I guess we could try somebody like kind of picking you up. Um, so I'm gonna try to put you on a desk or something. So I'm saving this image, and I'll show you how to do this. I'll go back to CapCut. All right. See, I wanted to get your shoes in there, but it's not long enough, so it'll cut it off. But essentially, this is how you would do it. So I may scale it up a bit, actually. But this came out pretty good. So if I play this, something like that. Now, of course, in the real world, we would have a better green screen, better lighting, and then also we would actually plan out a story of what we would actually want to do. Because right now we're just trying examples just to show you what you can do, but ideally we want a bigger green screen, better lighting, and then something that we want to portray in the scene. But in this case, I want to show you like on the desk. Um, um, then also I'm gonna change your lighting a little bit, make you fit more into the background. So something like that. But you can put anything in the background. Um, Galaxy, I won't really do anything, but could do that. Um, Literally anything. Like that. Yeah. Yeah. So it's about finding the right video, right thing, and then that's how you would do it. Same idea. your video, take the green out, replace it with something else at the bottom, and then you got it. But I want to just show you one last thing with this is if it's not a green screen, what if it's like a blue screen or a red screen? So I'm gonna import and do search up blue. I know I got some blue stuff. I know it's the Grinch in here. It's yeah. Okay, so this is a clip from the Grinch, and they got some stuff in blue, like this scene. See how it's all flat, one color, no different shades of blue. It's all one color blue. That's how you want it to be. So it's as neat as possible. So let's say I want to use this part where the Grinch is blue. And let me give you this clip. You got that. Oh my. Got you Grinch in there. So if you bring it to the timeline, so I'm gonna start fresh, like yours. All right. So if you can drag that clip to the timeline and cut it at this blue part, when we get to blue. And so this cut tool is down here and just split. So I just want you to cut it. So it's just this green part, blue part right here. And then it ends here and then just cut that. So you got to drag it to the bottom. Did you drag it? You probably have to zoom in. So this is how you zoom in, like this. Did that work? I use this little cursor. And once you get, say what? Split. I say cut, but split. So basically cut it. So all we have is this. Okay, so let me start fresh. All right, so we got our clip. You could go back to the tool. You got the split tool, cool. So you should see a yellow line popping up, like a yellow dotted line. That lets you know that that's where you want to make the cut. So I'm cutting it, like I said, where I wanted the blue to come in. So right here, right under that white line, I'm just make the cut. So just press it, and it should cut it into a second clip. All right, and now go to the end of that before it cuts back to blue and cut it again. because we just want to single out that clip right here. So we want to cut everything before and everything after that. So once we got that, we can delete the stuff in front and the stuff in back. So now we just left with the clip that's blue, like this. Let me know when you got that. Okay. All right. So now that we got that, so let's do the same idea. So I want you to try to take that blue out the way we took the green out. And then I want to see what you do. And I want you to replace the background with something from before. Let me know when you got that.
You want me to make it green?
No, not green. I want you to take it out and replace it with something else. Because before we used the green screen, but this one's blue. So it's the same idea. It's just a different color. Let me know if you need help, but same idea. You did it? Well, what part?
I put my background on top of the
And you took the green, you took the blue out? But yeah, it's not close, so I didn't do it yet. I was going to see what you might be coming from. So this has to be clean. Oh yeah, no.
So, we got like plenty of footage, BGs. So try to call key again. Call key. It might be easy with a mouse. All right, so click that. Took out the blues. Now we know the blues taken out. But I think what you did, you click the bridge, but you gotta put the background, so we take that out. So now that the blue is taken out, now we can add something else under it. There we go. Yep. There you go. There you go. And now, play it. But I think also what happened is, yeah, I think what happened too is you cut too much of the bridge scene. But you basically got it. It was this part I was going to do. Yeah. Yeah. See, this part we don't see it because it was no smart. Yeah. But these ones were there, so let's take it off. But yeah, you pretty much got it. Does that make sense though? Yeah. All right. All right. So yeah, I basically just wanted to show you green screen on the intro. Just what you can do stuff at home.
Yeah, let me think if there's anything else.
All right. So since we got green screen taken care of, now what I want to see is so we got about 20 minutes left. So let me see if I got this car commercial. Lamborghini. Okay. So I'm gonna take that drive out. All right, so with the last 20 minutes left, what I want you to do is you should have some footage of like a Lamborghini commercial right there. So for the last 20 minutes, I basically want to just make a scene pretty much. And so by make a scene, I mean, I want to make a title, add some music, and color grade this. So this commercial right here is like 10 minutes long. It's like a video, not a commercial. So it's just this Lamborghini driving around the city. I think it's Seattle. Yeah, Seattle. And so I wanted to make this 10-minute video into 1 minute, add music, and color grade it. So first things first, let me just show you. So let's add text. Trying to think if I should save this. Well, I'll save this when we do color grading next week. I think I'll save that for next week because when we get into color grading, I want to actually, because 20 minutes is not enough time, 15 minutes is not enough time to do that. But we still have it on your laptop. So we'll save that video actually because I want to show you how to make a scene. So like add color, add text, really break that down because we didn't talk about text yet, like how to add a title. But what I will do is let's just talk about text real quick, like adding text. I don't think we talked about this. So if you could drag that video, that Lambo video, drag it to the timeline. So it should be down there, it should be 10 minutes long, and we should have this long video. So I want to add a title to this video. And to do that, you want to add text. So text, everything is labeled. That's the fun thing about CapCut and the cool thing and easy part about it. Everything's labeled. So if you want to add text, simply go up to text and find this box and just drag it to the top. It might be small. So we did this. All right. So okay, so since we did that, okay, well keep that. Do you need a refresher or do you remember how to do it? Yeah, and we added, okay. Yep. And did we add music? Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Well, this last 15 minutes, let's just see what we get through. I want you to do the same thing, but with this Lamborghini commercial. So it's 10 minutes long. You obviously don't want to use that whole thing because it's commercial. So between 30 seconds and a minute, just cut this to be between 30 seconds and a minute. So it could be 45 seconds, 50 seconds, just anywhere between 30 seconds to a minute. Add a text at the beginning and then add some music. Because I want to see what you come up with. And we'll save the coloring for next week when we talk about color grading. But I just want you to piece together a project and also add an effect. So like rain, or fire, because it's where's the rain? Should be a rain filter. Hold on. Okay. Yeah. So basically, adds a text to the beginning, so it could be like Lambo commercial or Keenan's video, something like that. Make it between 30 seconds and a minute, and then add some music. And I just want to see what you get through in this last 15 minutes. So I'll put it up here. So remember, you still have to put it back on it. No, it's no green screen, so we don't got to do it. Yeah, do it. Yeah, I'll show you. All right, so for now, just 30 seconds, between 30 seconds and a minute, add music, and then some title or text at the beginning and end of the video. So it could be like Keenan's video, my video, Lambo commercial, anything like that. But some music that goes well with it. And again, music is that audio. Yeah. And then you just type in like track beat or car, anything you want. But if you need to put the headphones in and use the mouse, that might be helpful, to be honest. But see what you come up with at about 6 o'clock. Then, yeah. How about 10? So you're gonna use that text box in the top right. So, so delete that. And you gotta do that at the beginning. Christian, do you know what this is from? That's cool. I know who did that. This, whose class was this? Yeah. Okay.
Wow, It's one of those things where it's like, hey,
The music on top too.
Nah, the music will always go at the bottom, and it'll do it automatically. So if you drag it, it's gonna put it under this. But notice this. This video has audio too, so it's gonna interfere with the music. So you're gonna have to turn this down. Give me how to do that. I'll show you because you're gonna have two. So you get a cardinal that's coming from this. Then when you put music, it's gonna come two. So it's gonna be two sounds: the music and then the sound from this video. So you might want to turn this down so it doesn't interfere with the music. I can show you how to turn it down if you don't remember.
That's the thing about word, like I put my word at the beginning. I put my word at the top of the.
So it might help you to zoom in a little bit. Yeah, so now you can really see. So it's too big. Seems like so you know, so this actually is fine. That's awesome. So, but you have to click the file that you want to move. So we're gonna do this. So you got yeah. So I will move that. Run. So it starts with that. Oh, I see what you did. You have loud car noise sound. This is the music you showed, right? Okay. So then you want to turn this down. So to do that, you want to go to audio and value. Turn it down. Now it's way. Listen, just I want you to put the text at the beginning and the end and turn this down. Keep that audio. Right now it's at 20. So you know. Don't finish. All right. So put it at the beginning. That's what I said. I think if you go. Oh yeah, it was the music from the video interfering with the music that he went to by the end. So two different audio.
So you would have to turn this video down. Or it's like audio. There's a few ways to do it. Like you can track, you can track the audio where you turn it down. It's 3 different ways.
It's just sound.
Yeah. Nice, so that 57 seconds. Okay, so yeah, just getting familiar with that. That's pretty much it today. You can exit out, have that. Then I'm taking them to iPad.
All right, Gabrielle. We'll resume this next week. Talk about color grading. But I know it wasn't much to see on your end because we did green screen today. But next week we'll cover color grading, get into that. So until then, we'll see you next week.
My computer goes so slow as soon as I get in here. Good evening. Here we go. Let me get set up. What was the HDMI? Or Christian? Christian, there was an HDMI cord. You know what that one is? It's
Oh, on the floor.
Oh, I'm like, I couldn't see it.
There you go.
Thank you. So today we're going to welcome to Esports and the Law. Today we are going to talk about unions. Are you familiar with unions? Like a Yeah, did we talk about unions before? Like a union who like a who? Kinda. It's a group of people who are protected. The union under a union, they provide certain protections to ensure you have a safe workplace or workspace. So they kind of review, you know, how many hours you're working, how many, if you're getting lunch breaks, if you're too young, if you are getting appropriate pay consistently. They try to ensure the workplace is fair. And I lost my, okay. So we're going to talk about how it intersects with esports and gaming in ways that we're seeing our workplaces become um, fair and consistent, kind of organized. See a lot of union or people organizing in unions that we hadn't seen before in the past. If I can get to that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So first we'll go over also a short video about what labor unions are, their origin, and how we got here today. Let me share this.
Not the best time or place to be a 10-year-old, but groups of people called labor unions have been forming and promising a better future for Timmy. How was a typical day at the modern-day job you were picturing similar to a day in Timmy's life in the factory? How was it different? Today, we're going to discover the reforms and changes that came from labor unions in the Industrial Revolution. To do so, we're going to answer the following questions. What are labor unions, and what are their benefits and drawbacks? What laws and changes emerged from labor unions and the Industrial Revolution? Why did other movements grow out of labor reform? What impact did the movements have on society? Here's a big picture question for you to think about throughout the entirety of this lesson. How do the labor and reform movements from the Industrial Revolution impact labor and living standards today? Previously, we learned that while the Industrial Revolution led to progress in production and technology, the movement created a lot of negative societal consequences. Today, we'll examine how these unintended side effects helped spur the creation of labor unions and government reforms across the world. A labor union is an organization that speaks for all laborers in a particular trade, like painters, for example, that advocates for higher wages and better working conditions. The main goals of labor unions during the Industrial Revolution were to increase pay for workers, limit working hours, and increase regulations to create safer working conditions. Labor unions primarily engaged in negotiations with companies, and when negotiations failed, they turned to strikes in order to achieve their goals. Strikes are more than a bad swing in baseball. They are also an organized event where all workers in a particular industry or company refuse to go to work until the company or industry implements change. The first unions were created among skilled workers, people like carpenters, printers, and spinners. Their special skills helped to ensure that they were not easily replaceable by employers, so they had more bargaining power. These unions ended up helping the lower middle class more than the actual poor in urban society. When unions began forming in England, the government saw them as a threat to the established social order, so they tried to halt union growth quickly by imposing harsh laws. However, their anti-labor laws were largely ignored by workers and were eventually repealed. Over in the U.S., several smaller unions joined to become the American Federation of Labor in 1886 to gain more influence. Like in England, unions all over the industrialized world received large amounts of pushback from governments and companies for several different reasons. 1. Labor unions had gained a reputation for violent strikes and the beating of scabs or people who filled the positions of striking workers. 2. Higher wages and better working conditions were costly for a company. This would mean smaller returns for company bosses and the possibility of shutting down. The main argument was that having any job, even with bad working conditions, was better than having no job at all. 3. Governments did not approve of labor unions because they believed that labor unions largely hurt the economy by causing delays in production. Let's pause the video here. What are labor unions, and what are their benefits and drawbacks?
On Adapted Mind Reading, stories are designed to build vocabulary and comprehension. There are hundreds of stories to choose from, and all difficulties from K through 6. To show you how it works, let's say you choose Peter Pan. Click below to try it out yourself.
After continued pressure from unions such as the AFL, governments slowly but surely began introducing labor laws to help protect all workers. A few accomplishments of unions in Britain in the 1800s include making child labor illegal, limiting the hours children, teens, and women could work per day, and making it illegal for children and women to work underground in mines. One of the first important laws enacted to protect laborers was the Factory Act of 1833. The law made it illegal to hire children in England under 9 years old and put restrictions on the hours of other youth. In the United States, it took until the early 1900s for much progress in terms of labor laws. Eventually, the U.S. began by banning child labor under the age of 14 and continued to limit working hours of teens, women, and eventually men. All this may not seem like a lot when you think about the typical workday today, but it is a huge improvement from the daily life of Timmy that we looked at the beginning of this video. Remember, sometimes big historical changes have to happen slowly. Go ahead and pause the video here once again to reflect on the following questions. What laws and changes emerged from labor unions and the Industrial Revolution? Let's think back to Timmy and his family. List as many ways as you can the labor laws we just discussed could benefit Timmy's family. Labor laws like the Factory Act created the time and space for groups of people to push for more rights in other aspects of life. There are three main reasons why labor reforms led to larger societal movements. 1. Changing society led to new opportunities. The breakdown of traditional agrarian societies caused marginalized groups to advocate for their rights. 2. Increased quality of life meant more free time. Labor laws improved daily life and provided more freedom for people to participate in other movements. And 3, groups left out of mainstream change came together. Labor laws and unions largely benefited the majority white lower middle class and often led to underprivileged groups being left out. To have their voices heard, these groups banded together to form their own specific movements. The three movements we'll be focusing on are abolitionism, women's rights, and education reform. Abolitionism is the movement to end the institution of slavery. As workers in industrialized nations began to gain more rights and machines were quickly replacing manual labor, the push to end slavery was greatly strengthened, as slavery was the exact opposite of what labor unions were pushing for. An institution that regularly dehumanized people and refused to compensate them for their labor stood in stark contrast to unions demanding safer working conditions and higher pay. Many countries began systematically banning slavery, including Britain in 1833, the U.S. in 1865, and finally Brazil in 1888. The women's rights movement was a push from activists to gain job freedom, higher wages, and the right to vote. During the Industrial Revolution, several industries became largely female-dominated, like textile factories. Women quickly began to organize into labor unions in these jobs, and by the mid-1800s, women's rights movements had taken hold in both the United States and Great Britain. Education reform was the movement to create a free education system that all students could benefit from. Before industrialization, there was no formal free schooling system in place for children. Before you get too excited dreaming about not having to sit in school all day, just remember our friend Timmy and his long and scary days working in the factory. It makes math class seem much less terrifying. In the U.S., several states had created public school systems by the 1850s, and free public school became an option in Western Europe in the late 1800s. Pause the video here and record your answer to the following question in your PDF. Why did other movements grow out of labor reform? What impact did they have on society? We've covered a lot of information on major changes and reforms that came from the Industrial Revolution. We looked at the formation of labor unions and how they prompted change and explored the larger social movements that stemmed from this rapidly changing society. Today, labor unions are widespread and a common occurrence in many industries all over the world. Social movements that stem from increased freedom and better working conditions continue to make progress and benefit society every day. Can you think of any labor or social movements that you've heard of this year? As you know, historians, events from the past leave their mark on the present and future. Keep searching for these connections because history is everywhere.
Here we go. So that overview of unions is important so we know why unions exist today. And unions exist, the whole point is that they were born out of the Industrial Revolution, right? During the Industrial Revolution, we saw people who were young kids working in very unsafe work environments for an extended period of time, doing God knows what, right? I mean, we saw kids as young as 10 years old working in factories. Do we see that today? You see that today? Oh, if you say, yeah, I almost got you a job. Okay. I wanted to get you a job. Let's see. No, we don't see that today because we needed protections in place to ensure that certain people were protected, even when employers didn't think it was necessary. There we go. Even when certain employers didn't think it was necessary to protect everyone. Because one thing that we do know is that as a company or corporation, the more people that I could do that I can hire to do work for the longest period of time, what am I doing? I'm profiting off of that, right? That's a profit for me. So in the past, they didn't really care enough about how that had a negative impact on the employees. And so unions came around to kind of provide some structure to our workday. So as a part of that, people join together. What happens in the union environment? The union can say, hey, do you want us to represent you? You sign a card that says yes or no. If they get majority of that workforce who wants their representation, then now they are tasked with negotiating what we call a collective bargaining agreement. We talk a lot about contracts. That's a contract. That contract is going to spell out everything from every position that's under this contract, how much money they get paid, when you get a raise, how much that raise is, if you're disciplined, what you can be disciplined for, how that disciplinary process works. And they have the option to grieve that process, what locations you can work, almost any and everything you can think about should be documented in this collective bargaining agreement in order to ensure that you're protected in this contract. Your working conditions are protected in this contract. Now, although industry-based jobs were the original catalyst for unions, they're not the only jobs where you see union personnel. So we'll see how employees who work for large companies or corporations in the tech world, as it relates to esports and gaming, have started to unionize, and then why that's happening. So yeah, this is the process. You specifically show your support. It's called an election or a card check. Yep. And you obtain certification from the National Labor Relations Board, if necessary. That is a board that oversees all union and employer contractual obligations. So if the employer is not adhering to the contract, if they are in violation, then the union can take their complaints to the National Labor Relations Board. The very, very first recorded strike in the United States was in 1768, before the country's Declaration of Independence was published. The first trade union shortly thereafter was established in 1794, and it was called the Federal Society of Journeymen Cordwainers in Philadelphia. They were shoemakers, right? Again, we see a lot of industrial sector. The industrial sector is the catalyst for the creation of unions because they wanted reasonable hours. They wanted more money and safer working conditions. It also led to efforts to stop child labor. This is why you have to be a certain age in order to work somewhere, right? If you're 15, you have to get a worker's permit, or you have to at least be 16 years old. Those expectations were born out of labor unions. Now you get healthcare benefits, right? Or the option for healthcare benefits. If you're a full-time employee, your employer has to offer you some benefits. If you retire, if you work for the government, we have what they call a pension. So the government requires that you save money in your pension, that you set some money aside out of your check, and then they also match. Oftentimes, they'll match a portion of that, and to retire. So they're putting it away. They take it out of your check, and then when you become retirement age, they give it back to you in a monthly stipend.
But they're not giving you, it's your money.
It's your money, and then they add to it.
Okay, but you are getting it.
Sometimes, yeah. So have you heard of like a 401k company? Private companies have that. Yes. So that's what a pension is. It's just for the private sector. So the private sector means government employees. Government employees are going to be considered the public sector because you work for the public. Every employee who works for the government is getting paid by the public. So your taxes contribute to every police officer's paycheck, every firefighter's paycheck, every, even a local librarian. If they work for the city that you live in, then your taxes pay their salary. So they're considered a public employee because their goal is to ensure the public gets their services, is in benefit of those services. And the city or state or, even on the federal level where you work, they'll help, they'll retain some of a percentage of your paycheck to make sure you can retire, right? We talked about this a little bit before, but, you can start working at 16. Do you know what the retirement age is? 62. Yeah. So think about someone who started working at 16 and retires at 62. If you don't have a pension or a 401k, we also have something called Social Security. And so a portion of your check also goes to a federal fund that is Social Security, and that is supposed to be available to you at retirement age so that you can retire. Huh?
So you can't get that money.
Until you retire, correct. You cannot.
I have to stop.
When you turn 62, the money will be there from the 20 years. Yes. So you'll still have the money for a pension or for a Social Security. It'll still be there. If you work in the private sector and have a 401k, you can still be there too, or you could transfer it over to a different savings fund or retirement fund that you're interested in. What was important is reasonable hours, right? And safer working conditions. Why is it important to have a set of hours that you work, a reasonable time frame for which you work? Why do you think that's important? Right. Know when you go to work and when you get off. It's important for me to know that, but then what impact does that also have? If I don't, let's say I go to work and I never know,
But now we get off like between work.
Maybe, but let's say I go to work at 6 o'clock and I never know what time I get home. Now, does that have a negative impact on, yeah, or my family at home, right? I'm working, I have a family, I have a wife, I have children. So what is the balance? I'm still expected to parent. I'm still expected to be, you know, a husband or a valuable, because part of that is being a valuable addition to your communities. So if I'm working all night and day, how can I still raise my children, you know, or help run my household? Also, what am I getting paid for these hours, right? So right now, a full day of work is how many hours, you know? How many hours does it take a day for someone to be really on a weekly basis, but every day, what do you think a full-time schedule, how many hours would that be?
12.
Yeah, correct. So it's 8 hours or 40 hours a week. Yeah. So if you work a 12-hour shift, you work 3 days a week or 40, you know, and to get 40 hours a week. If you work 10 hours, you work 4 days a week. I have 40 hours a week. If you work 8 hours, we're working 5 days a week. That's important because what happens when I work over 40 hours? Yes. So your employer is required, if you're an hourly employee, your employer is required to give you overtime. There's that differentiation matters because a salaried employee, an hourly employee is normally your industrial workers. This is why unions exist. All of those employees are hourly employees, right? Employees that are salaried, kind of like your white collar workers, they might be required to work 50 hours based on need, but they don't get extra pay for working over that 40 hours. So they're expected to work until you get the job done within reason. But any hour that they work over 40 hours, they're not expected to get additional pay. Does that make sense? Yeah. Let's talk about when you're injured. Whose responsibility is it when you are injured on the job? Yeah, to an extent. Have you heard of workman's comp? Workers' comp? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you injure yourself on the job, yeah, employee. Yeah. And so there's a process in workers' comp where compensation, every employer pays into this fund. It's like an insurance policy for your employees. And you pay into this fund. And if an employee is injured on the job, they can sue you, but instead of suing you directly per se for liability, they can file what we call a workers' compensation claim. Say, hey, I was injured on the job, and this injury has required that I be off the job for 12 weeks. How can I get paid? How can I still get paid? That insurance fund allows employees to still receive compensation when they are injured on the job. It's not the same. It may not be the same amount of compensation, but they get paid. Yeah. So your employer is required to pay. So those are what we call benefits. So not every state has a requirement that that you have a paid maternity leave, but the federal government requires your employer to give you 12 weeks off. They require that you get 12 weeks, but you don't have, they do not require that your employer pays for it, pays you, but your employer cannot, they have to save your job. They have to save your position so you can come back in 12 weeks and have that same position. Most employers, though, are providing women with maternity leave, and not just women, actually. we see maternity leave, we see paternity leave. So what we start to call it now is parental leave, because men have access to it just like women have access to it. And we see you're offered parental leave for adoptions, even if it's not a child that you gave birth to, but welcoming a child into your home and your space, you still have to take care of that child. So we see parental leave for adoptions and things of that nature as well. Great question. So the Industrial Revolution, a lot of it started in Europe, but we come over to the United States. And what we notice is it doesn't matter where you work. When people started, when the esports industries began to boom and the tech industry began to become more and more popular, you have people in the back rooms creating video games, developing content, looking over codes, for employers. How long do you think they're working? What is the expectation? What are the expectations? How long? Yeah. What's your day? What should your day look like? I mean, it should still look like 40 hours a week, right? Like you get overtime, like it's only like mandatory to get overtime. If you're a full-time employee, if you full-time is between 37 and a half and 40 hours. Yeah. Once you get, then you're required to provide overtime. But sometimes when you don't have a union representing you, an employer, might take advantage and say, hey, you're supposed to work 9 to 5, but I need you to get this done, right? Let's say, or 7 or 8 or 9, and you're not getting paid for it because I'm a salaried employee. If it's your contract, like, you can't leave until the job. So you can't leave until like the job you gotta do. You probably get off at 5, you're not doing until 5, like 7 o'clock. They gotta pay for that with your contract. They do. What normally happens for that kind of overtime is that you have to tell your supervisor, hey, I got this project late. I can't get it done. Can I stay here and get overtime, or can I come back tomorrow and finish it? And then they'll give you the option. Yeah, they say if it needs to get done today, you can have overtime. If not, you can come back tomorrow. Now, what happens if your boss gives you something at 8 a.m. and it's 4 p.m. You're like, oh, I couldn't get it done, but you haven't been working on it. No, so then you'll have questions like, okay, so what were you doing over the course of the day? Why couldn't you get it done? Yeah. And then you could potentially risk being disciplined or put on what we call a performance improvement plan. So a performance improvement plan requires that you work on like your skill set, whatever is required for you to complete this task. Your performance improvement plan will have it written down to make sure you are working in a timely fashion. Your product is quality. You're meeting the metrics. If there's a quantitative aspect to it, meaning if I have to create 5 codes a day, how are you using your time wisely to ensure you need to create those 5 codes? How can I help you? What training might you need? Let's meet every week to make sure you're meeting your metrics. That's a performance improvement plan. Now, if your performance does not improve, what do you think happens? If you're on a performance improvement plan and your performance does not improve, what can the employer do? Absolutely. Probably going to fire you. Yep. That's exactly what happens. So, Beastbreaker developer Video Games, they unionized in North America, and it was the first certified video game studio to unionize in North America. That was important because they did so voluntarily. So their company didn't fight it, said, hey, you guys want to join the union? Let's work together. You can join the union, you can have this protection, we can work together. Which means sometimes the employer can say, I don't think you should be able to join the union, you know. But this time the employer said, go right on ahead. What ended up happening? So let's see. They then had a contract, contractual obligations. They have to negotiate a contract to make sure it's fair and equitable. But one benefit to this was that they were able to secure 4-day work week, right? Not all. Let's see. Here we go. Not all. Not all union interactions or engagements are that uh, collaborative, to say the least. But this one was, to which we appreciate, right? So what happened here? This happened in 2021. um, and it was important because uh, the union for Vodio Workers United was formed with the Communication Workers of America, which is an organization that helps employees organize into unions. The process they felt was unconventional because the staff is fully remote, meaning they all work from home. And over half of the bargaining unit members are independent contractors. It's also a very, very small studio with only 13 employees. So it was also important. It's also important to note that this was a collaborative effort. There was no pushback. They wanted to provide this. So oftentimes you'll see it being a little more contentious, but in this particular situation, it wasn't. We also know that a better ABK, which is a group made up of Activision, Blizzard, and King employees, have been fighting for change. So in order to prevent some of the more negative issues that have been coming out of unionizing or these workplaces, these esports workspaces, they wanted to get ahead of it and make sure that their employees were safe. Now, all right. The flip side to that, though, was we saw Microsoft and Activision, the Blizzard buyout. So this was last year. Could have been 2023. Microsoft bought out Activision for $68 billion in an all-cash deal. Two small units of Activision Blizzard workers were the first to certify unions last year in Middletown, Wisconsin, and Albany, New York. The third Boston-based Activision Blizzard subsidiary, Proliferate, filed in December 27, 2023, filed a petition with the National Labor Relations Board to unionize its workers. This was important because, oh my gosh, I hate that I have to go back and forth with this. I'll show a brief video on how they got there. How did we get here? Mm-hmm. Let me find it. So if you could guess, what would you think would have been some of the issues that will require, where some employees may want to unionize? What would be some of the issues that they normally have? Hmm. Yeah, so what would make an employee want to join a union? I'll get this together. Yeah. Oftentimes unfair labor conditions, right? Let's see. I'll show you a very brief video, too, actually. I'll show you a short victory video about Microsoft and Activision. Activision came down with a lot of heat for having unfair labor practices, sexual abuse and harassment in the workplace. They were being sued, long hours, unfair pay for not receiving fair wages, industry standards. And so employees wanted to have a union to support for getting those types of benefits. See, and making sure how do I turn this over? It's a very short. Making sure they were receiving fair pay and wages. You said what? Oh, this video? I can't hear you. There you go. Yeah, just really quick. I can't see my cursor. Here we go. Uh-oh.
Studios is a video game company owned by Microsoft, and earlier this week, about 300 ZeniMax employees. Have you heard about one of the biggest union victories to ever happen at a big tech company in the US? Well, it happened this week. So ZeniMax Studios is a video game company owned by Microsoft, and earlier this week, about 300 ZeniMax employees voted to unionize. This will be Microsoft's first ever union, and it is also the largest union effort to ever succeed in the video game industry. This union will allow ZeniMax's game developers to negotiate with Microsoft for better pay, more feasible working hours, and other benefits that workers previously had little control over. And just as important, this is one of the only times a union has ever succeeded in a huge tech company. Instead of organizing efforts from workers at Amazon and Apple, for example, for the most part, big tech has worked really hard to discourage people from unionizing. And as a result, unions are still really rare in the tech industry. ZeniMax's victory could help pave the way for future labor wins down the line. What do you guys think? Are unions at huge tech companies on the horizon? Let me know in the comments below.
It's just a quick blurb about the importance of that, right? It's not very common that tech companies have a unionized workforce, but the working conditions were so poor, they wanted that. Yeah, well, employees were not happy. Employees were not happy. And why weren't they happy? I'm going to go into it right now. Jesus. So in January 2023, before the official merger, Communication Workers of America confirmed that about 300 quality assurance workers at Microsoft Video Game subsidiary ZeniMax Studios have voted to join the union. So throughout the industry, the quality assurance departments have been treated poorly, have been paid very little, in their term, they have been treated as replaceable cogs. So they just felt like, quality assurance is a tech department, but when we think about how much we should be getting paid in the workplace, your company should be looking at the market rate, the market average. Hey, if I live in Chicago, am I getting paid more or less than someone who lives in like rural Tennessee? What do you think? Should I be getting more money if I live in Chicago or Chicago? If I live in Chicago, should I get more money? It's right. Because that's correct. That's because the cost for me to live in Chicago is higher than, let's say, rural Tennessee, in Tennessee or Kentucky, Texas, maybe even some of your larger cities, more urban areas. New York is very expensive. California is very expensive. Chicago would be considered expensive. And some of your other places like Minnesota or Iowa don't cost as much to live. So companies can get away with paying less money, paying their employees a little less because, it doesn't cost as much to live. So when you don't look at the market rate and you just pay an employee in California the same as an employee getting paid in Iowa, do you think they can be sustainable? Can they make a honest, a good living? Not likely. So they were being paid very little. They were treated poorly because they were expected to work more than 40 hours, more than 8 hours a day. And it's not that someone said, you have to, but they were pretty much like, if you don't, you won't meet performance expectations and you may lose your job. So they were almost threatened to stay late, work late hours in order to meet the demands of the role. And they were not receiving overtime, right? There was nothing in place. They were salaried employees, so they had to stay, but they didn't get any additional money. And then they were also, it was an unprofessional workplace and environment. They were being spoken to very poorly and made to feel bad. So in order to ensure that those things wouldn't continue to happen, they ended up unionizing. And so what the hopes is, and this was in 2023, people in the industry who are in similar situations can also unionize. You don't have to stay where you're being treated unfairly in an unfair environmental workplace. Right? Mm-hmm. Any questions? No. Okay. But thank you for hanging out with me for an hour. You'll have a couple of minutes, about 3 minutes before Aramis comes on, and I'll see you all next week.
That's why I read 67 books in 1 year.
Okay, so we'll just give me a few more minutes and then we're gonna go ahead and get started. So just sit tight and we will get started with today's class. All right, so good evening, class, and welcome to Intro to Music Production. My name is Aramis Singleton, and today is pretty much, I'm going to call it the last class or the second to last class. So just to do it, I want to give you more time to work on your beat this week. So you have all the time in the world this week to 7:45 to work in production. Next week, I'm going to want to hear it. Right? I want to hear your production and give you a yay or nay, which is pretty much a thumbs up or thumbs down. Give you some constructive criticism. It's not gonna be bad or anything like that. Just some things that I think that you can work on, and some things that I really like. And then that'll be in the class next week, and then we will go right into IT fundamentals. But this week, just like I said, just you working your production. Real quick though, for like 10 minutes, I'm just gonna go over some things in FL Studio like I did last week. Last week, I went over quite a few things where we talked about editing and sampling and tempo and stuff like that. I'm going to show you another program that I'm actually checking out right now. It's called the Sorrento sampler. It's a plugin. It's easy to use. I'm going to show you just real quick. I like it because it does a few things that I like. So I have a trial. You can use the trial for a month. For 30 days, you can use the trial, but it gives you full access. But I love it though because it does a few things. Like it syncs up the tempo. So you can have your tempo out of whack, but it's synced up though. Sometimes, with Edison, it doesn't have it completely where you have, well, it does, but you got to go through a lot. With this, it's right there. Just hit sync, and it's going to sync with your tempo. So your production or your sample will only go as fast as it'll only go as fast as the tempo in your main production, right? Oh, wait, why can't I hear it? Hold on, give me 1 second. So what's the Rinso sample does that I like a lot? Hold on, let me see if I can. Oops, nope, not that. Well, I can't put it all the way down, but what I like a lot is that it helps find the samples for you, right? It helps find the sample. You can, set the slicer. You can set it random, the keypad shift. You can do a lot. So Rinso sample does have a lot positive that I like a little bit more than Edison. but I still like accent a bit overall more. But enough about that. Just real quick, we're going to open up a new production, new channel pad. So as you know, it's also always good to start off at 32 for your pattern length, right? Because most beats work on an 8 count beat, right? So for example, I'm going to do this real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Most production that you listen to, especially like with rap, because they work, they rap 32 bars, it's always going to be on the 8 count, right? Sometimes it can be a little bit different. It could be the 7 count, it could be a 10 count, could be a 12 count, but for the most part, it works on multiples of 4. So 4 count, like the real 4 count that he does in a lot of his beginning beats. Actually, I can show you that real quick. Pharrell have his famous 4 or 5 count on every beat. So let me show you. So these are just a few songs where he does that. His signature 4 count. So as you see, he does a 4 count at the beginning of a lot of his beats, right? Because most beats, where I say on a 4 count or an 8 count. So for real, that's his signature. That's how you know when he made production is 4 count, right? It's also a great rhythm starter. It gets you ready for the production. It gets you ready for how fast you're gonna go, right? Like when you hear Drop It Like It's Hot, you know how fast or how slow the beat is gonna go. And when you hear something like Happy, you know how the tempo can be a little bit, you know what I'm saying, fast. So definitely using something like that definitely helps. But with production, like I said, multiple before, so 4, 8, 12, 16. We heard a lot of things, a lot of different counts in music throughout the history of like popular music, period, right? It's always good to have your metronome on, right? It's always good to have your metronome on because it lets you know how fast the production is going. So, right? And this is 130. I was saying, like, having a metronome on is always smart. Okay, but having a metronome is always good to use, right? Especially when you first starting out because it lets you know how fast or how slow the production going. So let me show you an example. So this is 130 right here, right? Not too fast, not too slow, but then I could do something like, or take it to 200, right? And then I could take it low as, I could take it low, but I'm going to put it at 80, and this is how 80 would sound. Right, pretty slow. Now you may ask yourself, why would you use a slow tempo, or why would you use a fast tempo? Why not stay in between 130 and 160 or whatever, right? Well, a lot of beats technically are made at slower tempo. You have a lot of great beats, especially trap beats, that they use to make a slower tempo because it allows them to use more of the channel rack, right? So let me show you something real quick. So I got it on 80. I'm going to do my every 2 steps. I'm going to take out my metronome. Right? And I can do something like this. Right. It sounds like it's going slow, and it is, but it allows you to use more of the channel rack so you can be more varied in your music production, your drum, your drum patterns and your snares, right? Because you can do something like this, right? But it just allows you to use more of the channel rack so you can do more, right? Because it's so slow. So you don't have to worry about trying to fit everything in. You will have enough room. Now to put everything in that will be just a challenge, but it's easy. Once you understand that when you slow down the tempo, it allows you to do more. When you speed up the tempo, you're going to use a lot more patterns. Even if it's slowed down, you may use a lot more patterns, right? But still, still it's the same. It stays the same though. Like you can do more in your channel at a slower tempo. Your tempo definitely helps you do a lot, right? It definitely helps you do a lot. It definitely open up more doors for you in your journey of music production, right? If you slow it down. Now, me personally, I like going a bit fast, so I stay typically in the 170, 180, 190 range. I'm gonna put it at 190 right now, right? So let's go ahead and switch this up because I'm going a bit faster. Right now, because now I got to worry about putting everything in. So if I wanted a different snare pattern, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete these snares, but I want to put this pattern 1, right? Now I'm going to go to pattern 2. I'm not going to name it right now. Go to my channel rack. Now I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to pattern 2. And I'm just going to show you an example real quick of what you can do when you have multiple patterns, right? So I'm going to use 2, and then on my third pattern, right, number 3, on my third pattern, I'm going to switch up the drums or the kick or the snare technically. So I'm going to go to pattern. So go to 2, and then go to 3 to switch it up. And this is how it would sound. And then you can do something like this. Let's say I'm gonna add one more pattern. I'm not gonna name it, of course. I'm gonna go to the channel rack, go to pattern, and then I'm gonna. Right, and I'm gonna, I'm gonna go to piano roll, and I'm gonna do my thing. Every other one. Right. And you see the pattern, right? The pattern is not that big. Let's see. I'm gonna do 8. So it's an 8, right? But what that allows me to do is something like this. Right. So that is how you can use smaller patterns in your production, right? Once you get into making multiple patterns and setting them up in your playlist, it's your playlist, remember, right? For my main, so in this, example, my main production is pattern 1. That's what my drums and my hi-hats is, right? Then I have my snares on pattern 2 and pattern 3, right? So the third one mix it up a little bit. So at the end of my fourth pattern for number 1, the snares mix up. And then pattern 4 is just my claps that I just randomly place at places. So it sounds something like this. Right. So that's a quick way for that's a visual way of you seeing how the patterns, how they work, and how you can use a lot. Right. I know somebody real true story that used at least 32 patterns. Right. I think the longest or the most patterns I use making a beat was like 20. I use like 20 different patterns because I had multiple different drums that I wanted to be at different places. I had multiple different snares and hi-hats. all of that. So a lot does go in production, but a lot of that also was like post production. Like I had the beat for the most part done, and then I had to go back in and do some more stuff, right? So when you do post production, it's pretty much as when your beat is done, then you would go ahead and do some post production, right? So afterwards, you be like, you know what? I like that snare, but let's add some more to it, right? I like this, but let's add an effect to it. That's called post production, right? But that's just a real quick demo of just working with different patterns. So as you know, when you make your production, you start off your drums. You're gonna start off with your drums, of course. Most of the time, you're gonna start off with your drums, and you're gonna start on your ones and your twos, right? These are your ones, and these are your twos. And then a real quick thing for your hi hats, if you don't want to take the tedious time of doing every other step, just right click the 808 hi hats or whatever hi hats you have, and do fill every two, and you would get this. Well, not that, but you would get this, right? And you fill every two. And then, of course, you put your snares or your claps on your threes and your sevens. So if you use the snares, it'll sound like this. Or if you're using claps, it'll sound like this. Right? So remember, though, your threes and your sevens. So I'm going to put the snare on my threes and my seven. And then from there, we can also get into the instrumentation real quick. So I'm going to use this flex bass right here. I'm going to go to piano roll. And remember, you want to have be your 1, 4, 5. All right. So what is that, right? 1 right there. So a quick way, what I do is I use my keyboard and I press the Q, the E, and the T. Right, keys on your keyboard. That'll be your 1 chord right there. Right, so that's your 1, 4, 4 right here. Then it's your 5 chord right here. Right, and a real quick way for you to like copy that and make it go down the key, you can hit this right here. This corner called select. You're gonna go ahead and just select all of it. You can hit Control C on your keyboard. It's gonna copy it, and then Control V. It's gonna paste it again. So, regular copy paste, Control C, Control V. So, and then you're gonna hit the paintbrush right here. You want to take this, and you can make that go down the key. So if you want, you can do something like this. Let me just make this go up a little bit. Right, but that's just a real quick way of how you can do it for chords, right? Your 1 to 4 or 5 chords or your money chords. So let me go back here. And as you see, this is my 1, right? This is my 1 chord, which would be C5, E5, and G5. And then my other chord would be E5, G5, and B5. And then my other chord would be G5, B5, and D6. So those would be your 1, 4, 5 or your money chords right there, right? And if you don't have a keyboard, like a legit MIDI keyboard, you do have QET, and then it would be RYI, and then TUO. I mean, TUO on the keyboard. So you need piano roll because you can use your keyboard to play the notes, right? Oh, that's the one. So it's 1, 4, 5 right there. So you see the keys highlighted on the side of the keyboard when I press it? Like right here, it's like right here. You see these? Right? So that's the 1, 4 right here. Wait, no, 4 right here. Right? See the keys on the keyboard, and then 5 right there. So those keys would be your chords. Right? So 3 keys can make a chord. So those would be your 1, 4, 5 chords. I can leave that up there also. Yeah, so 7:24. So right now I'm giving you the rest of the time. I'm not gonna talk no more because you got 20 minutes. I'm gonna give you the rest of the time to work on your production. And then next week, seriously, next week we are going to play the production that you have, and then we'll get started in the IT fundamental class. So go ahead and take the rest of the time, work on your production. If you need help, just let me know. I'll come over, and that is how we're going to do today's class. So that is the end of today's lecture, and the rest of the time will be devoted to you all working on your production. All right, class, it's about that time. It is 7:46, so go ahead and save what you have. Now remember, this is how it's going to work. Next week, when you come in, I'm just going to hear your beats. I'm going to give you yay and nay, some constructive criticism. Real quick, like quiz, not gonna take that long, and then we'll be hopping right into IT fundamentals and getting started with that. So go ahead and say what you have. And close down your laptop. But that is about the end of today's class. So if you have any, well, real quick, what did we go over real quick? Pretty much we just did a week recap on some things about sampling, about beat patterns, about beat selection, all of that. Pretty much all that we did. And I just gave the class time to work on their production. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach me at Aramis.Singleton. I got you. When you come in Wednesday, I got you. I'm gonna talk to Dr. Nance about that. I got you. But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can reach me at aramis.singleton@clickservicesnfp.org. Or if you see me in class before or after, pull me to the side and I will help you out and answer your question the best way that I can. But you all have a great night, and I will see you all Friday for streaming. And then, like I said, next week, we're going to hop right in. We're going to play the beats production that you all have done. And then we're going to hop right into IT fundamentals. So get ready for that. But attend in. I will see you all next week. Have a great night. See you soon.